Welcome to the Daily Review. This is Fred Razak, Senior Trading Strategist here at CM Trading. And today is June 5th, 2023, and today is Monday morning. So looking at the highlights of the day, the U.S. markets rock higher. And now this is really on the back of the NFP last Friday, which kind of broke the markets higher after a very favorable number. Now looking at today's major economic events, so out of the United States at 4 p.m. South African time, we have an ISM Services PMI numbers coming out. Now, if it's favorable, the markets will continue trading higher. Now, looking at the various markets, starting out with the Forex symbols, the Turkish Lira continues to tumble versus the US dollar. And as we look at the indices, the Dow Jones obviously going up 700 points and the NASDAQ also trading higher. Now, looking at commodities, gold slumps while oil has a gap up and then fill the gap. We're going to take a look at that. And looking at the stocks, Microsoft ending the day on its highs, which is a very favorable note. And lastly, looking at cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin back on support. So let's take a look at the markets and see what we can expect from today's trading. So we're going to start with the Turkish Lira. This is our go-to because this is the one that is showing us so much potential here. I mean, it's trading at 21.13. We picked it up, if you remember, last week, okay, already at the beginning of that week. So, I mean, however you look at, whatever chart you look at, it's just very simple. It's making new highs, gapping up, continue. And potentially it could hit 30. I mean, it could hit 40. We don't know. When it's making new highs, that's the thing. The next threshold is 25, okay? Because every roundup number is really important. So if it can hit 21 and it could clear 21, closer to 22.5 past that, then it could probably get to 25. So keep that in mind as you're still looking at this. Now looking at the rest of the markets, the euro had some big news last week. We thought the euro would get stronger. It didn't. It went back to its lows. So it's showing some slumping here versus the US dollar. Now the US dollar technically should be getting weaker, but it's not. That means that the euro is getting weaker vis-a-vis the USD. Now the reason the US dollar should be getting weaker is because the indices are going higher, and that's usually a environment where the US dollar goes lower. Now jumping into commodities before we get to the indices, that gold slumps back to its supportish level at 1942. So it's trading in a range. 1940-ish level is your support level. If it passes the 30 at the RSI, that's my entry point in the anticipation it's going to bounce. Now jumping into crude oil, this is where it becomes very interesting. If we look at a 30-minute chart, much clearer. We had a gap up this morning to 74.90 and then trickle right down from there. Now we're at this point where we're kind of settling, and this is a supportish area. Now, as long as we keep above the 72.45, potentially we could go back higher. So keep in mind that this is something that watching throughout the day to see how it unfolds for today. Now looking at the US market, starting out with the Dow Jones, this is a daily, but first look at a 4-hour chart. Markets went up 700 points last Friday, and that is amazing. Big comeback for the Dow Jones, mostly because of the NFP report. Now we're at the top of the range here. Top range is 34,300. So we still have room to go up 500 points in the Dow. Now looking at the NASDAQ, didn't do much. I don't need it to do much. It's been on a upwards momentum for quite some time. And it's specifically looking at Microsoft, it ended the day on its highs, which is a very favorable kind of environment as we look at it into this, going to this trending upwards kind of momentum. Now there are a little bit of a break. Facebook took a little bit of a break. If you look at Microsoft, it did end the day at the end of its highs. Excuse me, looking at Apple, did take a capitulation move at this 181. But today's going to be a very, very interesting day. Now we're going into the summer. Summer is usually a quieter session for trading because that's mostly when all the fund managers go on vacation. But keep this in mind that the markets are still digesting what's going to happen later this week with the FOMC rate statement. So that's a big deal as this is still unfolding. Now jumping into NVIDIA, just to follow up on the trade from last week, it's trading right now at 393. 393 is the level that we're at. We're close to our all-time highs. Did come back, did not trade lower. So this is really very important as well. Now looking at Bitcoin, we are trading back to its supportish level of 26,749 as it's just trading sideways. Now this week's going to be big, so I do anticipate a little choppiness into today, tomorrow, right before we get into Wednesday's FOMC rate statement. Wishing you guys a great trading day. Just be a little bit careful and very specific about what you trade today because it's going to be choppy. This is Razak. We wish you guys a great trade.